Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy, where we have actually seen the Marvels and were surprised by the experience. Not in a good way, but also not in a bad way. Or as bad a way? Let me get some preliminaries out of the way before the full spoiler review. You have been warned. When I first heard that Disney Marvel would be doing a sequel to Captain Marvel, I was not surprised. Hollywood is incapable of letting a billion-dollar movie stand on its own. Case in point being The Joker. It was a self-contained movie about one man's descent into madness. Madness that became contagious in the context of crime-ridden early 1980s New York City by the end. What does Hollywood do when a movie made for so little makes so much? Sequel time, baby! And not only do they decide on a sequel, but some genius looks at a comic book live-action adaptation and thinks to themselves, man, you know what else comic book fans love? Musicals! Let's get Lady Gaga to play Harley Quinn and do a follow-up movie. Only this time, everyone sings. All the time. It'll be like Disney. So no, I was not surprised Captain Marvel, the most brilliantly marketed movie in the history of Hollywood, immediately got a sequel greenlit. However, the problems facing the sequel were also immediately manifest for anyone with a brain. First problem was that pre-production had to be delayed due to COVID hitting in 2020. It would not have delayed it too much because Hollywood got a dispensation from Gavin Newsom to get back to business where other, smaller businesses did not. The second problem was that, despite being a sequel to a billion-dollar film, Captain Marvel only made $1 billion because Disney Marvel told all and sundry that you had to watch Captain Marvel to understand Avengers Endgame, the culmination of MCU phases 1, 2, and 3. It was sandwiched between two of the biggest movies in the history of Hollywood. Movies that grossed a combined $4.8 billion on a combined budget of around $800 million. Despite Captain Marvel being an Endgame, seeing the Captain Marvel movie was not vital to understand the latter movie. Which brings us to problem number 3, and probably the biggest problem. Brie Larson. Brie Larson was wooden, unlikable, and generally a poor casting. Part of that could have been laid at the feet of directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, neither of whom are good directors for a big-budget comic book movie since they have mostly done small indie flicks. Not all of the rest of Larson's issues in Captain Marvel can be laid at the feet of the writing, a lot of which the directors are also responsible for since they helped write the screenplay. But a lot of them can. Disney Marvel decided to adapt the worst Marvel Comics iteration of Carol Danvers, the one Kelly Sue DeConnick is credited with creating. The one that keeps getting canceled because nobody but 30-something single cat ladies like. If Disney Marvel had a brain amongst the lot of them, they would have recast Captain Marvel after Endgame. Filming for that movie was already done by the time reaction to the first Captain Marvel movie was released. All they could do was cut her out of the finale of the Infinity Saga as much as was possible. Instead, Kevin Feige decided to full steam ahead the train he was driving off the cliff because he was bound and determined to MCU Marvel, and Brie Larson figured large in those plans. She was going to be the successor to Iron Man as the leader of the Avengers. Until the voice of the audience got too loud to brush off with altered Rotten Tomatoes algorithms and attempts to paint fans as istophobes. As it became more and more apparent that she was massively disliked by MCU fans, they decided to introduce both Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan as co-stars in the movie, establishing their characters on Disney Plus shows first. And since that would be happening with the script, they decided to change the name to The Marvels. It has not helped. Forecasting for Captain Marvel 2/The Marvels has been so bad from the get-go, critics of the MCU's downward slide have been eagerly anticipating its premiere for 2 years now, and not in a good way. With that rather long-winded prelude out of the way, how was the movie? For those who missed the first one, this is your last spoiler warning. Full disclosure here, I could not care less about Disney Marvel and its many, many offerings at this point. As my previous videos concerning Marvel have shown in autistic detail, Disney Marvel has joined Disney Star Wars in apathy land, a place from which it is nearly impossible for entertainment franchises to ever return. I already did not care if Captain Marvel got a sequel 2 seconds after the credits ran on the first one. It was not a good movie. If Aquaman did not exist, I would probably say it was the worst billion-dollar movie I know of outside of Disney live-action remakes. I went into the Marvels fully expecting a complete shit show. And it was. The characters were moronic and badly acted. The story was completely retarded. The motivations of the characters took half a second to break down and figure out better plans. And the cinematography was generally shit. Probably due to the laughable CGI Disney gets since they have pissed off all of the VXF shops and artists. But let's get into specifics, shall we? The movie basically opens by showing you the season finale of Disney Plus's show, Ms. Marvel. Why? Because even Disney has to admit at this point that nobody is watching their crap fests on their dismal streaming service. Who is Ms. Marvel? A Pakistani-American teenager living in New Jersey. Why? Because much like the rest of the crap characters from Marvel Comics post-2000, she is a self-insert for a writer or editor. In this case, Sana Amanat, an editor at Marvel Comics. And because this origin is so thin and lacking in creative talent, it is a character that continually gets cancelled in the comic books, to the point of them having to have her die in Spider-Man months out from the Marvel's premiere so people will actually see it rather than in the Ms. Marvel comic book which nobody reads. Ms. Marvel is a complete Captain Marvel stan. She draws herself in pictures with Captain Marvel. She writes Captain Marvel fanfic. Her costume and hero name are taken from Captain Marvel. Oh, did I forget to say she was a superhero? Yeah. How did she get her powers, you might ask? You will absolutely love this. She gets them in the mail from her grandmother in Pakistan. What do I mean by that? Oh, her grandmother literally mails her a bracer that bestows the ability to create light constructs, kinda like Green Lantern. Yeah. And with that, she becomes Jersey City's own superhero. Lord knows the place needs one, but holy shit. Oh, and her nerdy friend also discovers she's a mutant of some kind. But that was in the show, not in the Marvels. So she's in her bedroom after more Captain Marvel adoration and activates the bracer, immediately switching her with Carol Danvers, much to Captain Marvel's confusion. Oh, and all of that comes with the teenage girl animation that populated the Ms. Marvel show. It was pure awesomeness. Well, someone thought so at least. What would have been a much better opening scene would have been an explanation for the why of this whole movie. Alas, we don't get that until the bloody plot is practically to its climax. But no, Nina DaCosta, the director and one of the writers, and who has a total of 2 films to her filmography, one a short that had a budget of a little over $5,000, and a remake of Candyman that had a budget of $25 million, decided to open a movie with a budget north of $300 million without even counting the marketing, with the end of a show nobody watched the first couple of times it was offered, not even when it was free on ABC. But never mind that, because next we are introduced to the big bad. General Dar-Ben is a Kree leader in the comic books who almost nobody knows about because he is so obscure. What? Oh, I know I said he. That is because in the comic books he is a white guy with rather cool looking armor. No, this is MCU. Actually, now that I say that, I'm kind of surprised the bad guy wasn't a white guy. Anyway, Dar-Ben and some Kree in really bad, supposed to be armor, are digging around a barren planet, excavating monoliths, which Dar-Ben smashes with her accuser hammer. Zawe Ashton is neither menacing nor does she have any gravitas as she pretends to be a big bad. She just doesn't have it. I don't know, maybe it's the silly costume, bad hairdo, and the grill on her teeth. Or maybe she is just a bad actress whose acting credits include movies I have never heard of, guest appearances on shows I mostly have never heard of, main cast roles on shows I have never heard of, and theater work, mostly in plays I have never heard of. To be fair, that last one would not be remarkable since I am not a connoisseur of the theater, and most of the rest of it could be because she is British. Either way, Dar-Ben finds what she is looking for. Well, she finds one of what she was looking for. It is a quantum band, and there are 2 of them. One guess as to who has the other. So, irritated, Dar-Ben hits the band with her power hammer and it glows. She shoots a light beam into the sky and tears apart a jump point in the space over the planet. For reasons? Never mind. The resulting fissure in space-time is noticed by Nick Fury at the Sabre space station. If you don't know why Nick Fury is living on a space station, you are not alone. It happened in a Disney Plus show, Secret Invasion, where we were treated to 8 episodes of Nick Fury as a useless, credit-stealing old man who reneged on his promise to a little Skrull kid who grows up to be a terrorist who decides to kill all of humanity so the Skrulls can take over the Earth. Yeah, it was a whole thing that hardly anybody watched because it was a complete deconstructionist dog show. Anyway, his wife turns out to be a Skrull, and they move to the space station to get away from the fallout of his complete f*** up in letting the Skrulls settle on Earth. As an immigration allegory, it needed work. As the trans allegory the alphabet mafia wanted it to be, well, actually nobody cares. Fury sees the destabilization of the Jump Network and calls Captain Marvel to see if she can deal with it. She promises to look into it and goes to the planet Dar-Ben was at. Meanwhile, Monica Rambeau is a technician on the station who is on a spacewalk to fix something when she sees a jump point near the station flare up. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who the f*** is Monica Rambeau? Well, if you remember the first Captain Marvel movie, Carol Danvers' friend from the Air Force was Maria Rambeau, and her kid was Monica. Monica was blipped by Thanos, came back to find her mom had died of cancer, and joined SWORD, an organization her mother helped found to monitor and respond to alien incursions and other weird happenings. As a SWORD agent, she was present when Scarlet Witch held a small town hostage and tortured them while pretending Vision was alive and they had kids. Wait, you don't know about that either? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, outside the small town, SWORD was held back by a magical force field. Monica Rambeau was a f***ing dumbass and touched the force field, pushing through it and getting superpowers in the process. The whole thing bordered on retarded, including when Monica excused the whole torture the whole town thing and let the Scarlet Witch go because she was sad or something. So, having that as her background, what do you think she does when she sees something weird by the fritzing jump point that is also interfering with her communications with her coworkers and the station? Go back and get some instruments? Get a robot to investigate? Go back and figure out why the comms are fritzing? Of course not. She touches it and gets flashed to the planet Captain Marvel was on. Does Captain Marvel go where she was? Of course not. This is how she wound up in Kamala Khan's bedroom at the beginning of the movie. No, instead Kamala Khan winds up where Rambeau was. In Rambeau's spacesuit, of course. Because... story? And where did Rambeau go? Why, to where Captain Marvel was, and about to fight Kree soldiers that were charging Captain Marvel for... reasons? Kamala Khan drifts back to the space station, conveniently, where she sees Nick Fury and somehow immediately recognizes him, a secret agent, and thinks she is taking a test to join the Avengers. At this point, we get a bunch of switching places hijinks interspersed with Kamala's family finding out she has been moonlighting as a superhero using her grandmother's bracer, and the Khan house being destroyed by Kree fighting all three who are switching places during said fight. Fury and Rambeau share their theory with the Khans about the three heroes being entangled through their light-based powers. Not all people with light-based powers in the universe, mind you, just those particular three people who have hardly anything to do with each other, or nothing to do with each other in the case of Kamala Khan. Why those three people and not all light energy powered people in the galaxy or universe? Don't know. But never mind, because the story has to happen. This is where we see the part from the trailers when Monica Rambeau explains Captain Marvel can use light energy as power, Rambeau can see light, and Kamala Khan can create light constructs. Her descriptions of her power is utterly idiotic, by the way, and does not even come close to describing her powers and their differentiation from Captain Marvel and Kamala. They also wind up fighting Kree on a Kree ship that is at a Skrull refugee colony, at which Dar-Ben is talking to the Skrull Emperor about peace between the Kree and Skrull. Or she's supposed to be. Turns out she's just there to tell them to relocate and become part of the Kree Empire again, or stay on the planet while she steals its air. And as soon as I realized that was the plan, I started getting Spaceball vibes. They eventually all wind up on the Kree ship where Dar-Ben villain speeches them about destroying everything Captain Marvel loves, calling her the Annihilator. The girls decamp, flying back to the planet to try to evacuate the Skrulls, or at least as many of them as possible. The planet's air is sucked away by the jump point Dar-Ben opened to siphon it back to Hala, the homeworld of the Kree. They herd the Skrulls onto the ships and get off the planet, leaving many behind as the settlement is covered in the falling rock formations surrounding it as the atmosphere is hoovered to Hala. Back on board Captain Marvel's ship, they shuffle off the Skrulls onto Valkyrie, who teleports in on a rainbow bridge. They then talk about what happened, and we finally get an exposition dump from Captain Marvel as she explains the legend of the quantum bands and their involvement with creating the jump point system. She also explains that she went to Hala after the events of the first Captain Marvel movie and destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, the AI that ran Kree society. It caused a civil war that somehow caused the atmosphere to be polluted and thinned, and the water to dry up, and the sun to weaken. So Dar-Ben's brilliant plan is to take the air from the Skrull planet, the water from Aladna, a planet Captain Marvel is popular on and which is mostly water, and the sun from the Earth. It is a stunningly retarded plan. But for now, let's just go with it. So they use the Skrull mind-reading devices we saw in the first movie, and that Carol Danvers has been using to recover her memories that the Kree and Skrulls messed with, to get the coordinates that Kamala saw on Dar-Ben's ship, finding out they are going to Aladna. It is also where we find out that Maria Rambeau died of cancer and Carol visited her before she died. They get to Aladna and find out that Captain Marvel is a princess there, and the culture is one in which everything is sung elaborately, including Bollywood-style dance routines, and unless you sing, nobody can understand you unless they are quote-unquote bilingual. She finally cuts through the rigmarole with the Prince of Aladna, who happens to be Danvers' husband, and inform them that Dar-Ben is coming there for their water. They are provided superhero costumes by the prince, and when Dar-Ben gets there, they fight. During the fighting, they kick the crap out of the Kree, but Dar-Ben also sees the quantum band that Kamala has. She tries to get it away from her, but is prevented by Captain Marvel and Rambeau. So she opens the jump point to steal the water and leaves. The three get onto their ship and head to Earth. They are a little late because Dar-Ben is already there. They get on the Kree ship and the final fight ensues. They beat Dar-Ben, and instead of taking her band and letting her die after she winds up with a piece of stone or metal piercing her torso, they relax their vigilance while explaining how the bands can help her people. Bad guy's got a bad guy, however, and she gets back up, takes Kamala hostage, and gets the second band, and then opens a jump point to start siphoning the sun, which destroys Dar-Ben as Kamala warned her it would. Meanwhile, the space station is being evacuated by Fury and, oddly, Kamala's family, who are up there for their own safety until Kamala comes back. The station is malfunctioning, so only half the pods are working. While this is going on, they also have been finding these egg things around the station. Turns out Goose the Flurkin was laying eggs. There are suddenly cute kitten Flurkin everywhere. Conveniently so, because Fury gets the idea of using the Flurkin to eat everybody and then evacuating the Flurkin, because apparently people who are eaten by Flurkin are sent to a parallel dimension or something. And it's easier to evacuate cats than it is a few hundred people. It was really not explained very well. They get the Flurkin, Fury, and Kamala's family into the escape pods and down to Earth. That is when they see the sun begin to dim. Back at the Kree ship, they retrieve the quantum bands and give them to Kamala. They plan to load up Rambeau with energy so she can fly through the jump point, which has managed to tear a hole in space-time and create a portal to another universe. If they don't, the other universe will merge with theirs with disastrous consequences. They fire their energy at Rambeau and she begins to glow white. She flies through the air and begins to repair the tear. That is when Captain Marvel realizes she won't be able to come back through. She tries to fly out to grab her back into their universe, but is too late. Back on Earth, Kamala is reunited with her family as the Flurkins vomit space station staff all over the grass. Captain Marvel tells Fury what happened. She eventually leaves and goes to Hala, using her power to reignite Hala's sun, helping the Kree. Kamala and her family are moving to Monica Rambeau's house in Louisiana. That also was never explained very well. The end credit scenes were stupid, setting up crap that will either never happen or will also be stupid. The first was Kate Bishop coming back to her lair at night. You have no idea who Kate Bishop is? Yeah, I'm not surprised. She is the chick who is now Hawkeye after the bait-and-switch Hawkeye Disney Plus show, wherein she girl-bossed her way into Hawkeye's mantle. Anyway, she comes in and turns on the lights to see Kamala there. Kamala wants to recruit her after being inspired by the team-up with Rambeau and Captain Marvel. She learned of Bishop from a sword tablet that wound up being left in her parents' couch. Kate Bishop smiles and the credits continue. Then we get Monica Rambeau waking up in a hospital bed and seeing her mother. Or so she thinks. She gets excited, but the woman wants to know who she is. That is when Kelsey Grammer's Beast from the Fox X-Men franchise comes in. Or rather, a very, very badly rendered CGI version of Beast. He tells her that they found her floating in space, and that is when Rambeau remembers what happened, and that she is stuck in another universe. One in which her mom doesn't seem to have kids and has both quantum bands as the hero Proton or Spectrum. We're never really told. And that is where they left things off. As I said when I started the review, this was not a movie I expected to be pleasantly surprised with. I was, though. Sort of. It was terrible in most aspects you could possibly choose to analyze this movie by. However, it was less terrible than I was expecting. It was not Eternals terrible, for example. There was only one redeeming quality to Eternals, and that was Salma Hayek's loveliness. And they even managed to screw that up by covering her up more than a nun going to Sunday Mass. Much like the Eternals movie, the story of the Marvels was the construction of three people who have grossly overestimated their ability to string words together in order to produce an entertaining story. The characters, with a single exception I will talk about in a moment, were stiff, or exaggerated, or imbecilic, or even full retard. The directorial and editorial decisions were mind-boggling, especially given the number of things you needed to watch before going into this movie just to understand who people were and what was going on with them at that point. The cinematography suffered from the same thing every Marvel movie since before Endgame has, namely Disney Marvel's over-reliance on CGI, especially green screen generated scenery. It was badly noticeable throughout this movie, and it has been for years with the MCU. I already touched on the problems with the story earlier, but let me get specific with the characters, starting with the villain and her quote-unquote plan. With the power Dar-Benn is pulling from the quantum band and her hammer, combined with the advanced technology of the Kree, fixing Hala would be far easier than the blitheringly idiotic idea she comes up with. Dar-Benn comes off as a petulant child, suddenly given political power along with superpowers, deciding to destroy 3 worlds in a fit of pique to hurt the person responsible for killing the Supreme Intelligence, and, in her mind, Hala. 2 seconds thought could come up with a half a dozen alternate plans that would have worked better, been less prone to opposition from the very person responsible for killing the powerful Supreme Intelligence or the inhabitants of the worlds she planned to destroy, and caused less collateral damage. That she was not even cognizant of the peril she put the rest of the universe in with her idiotic plan merely reinforces the petulant child aspect of this version of Dar-Benn. That Zawe Ashton was so bad at portraying the character did not help. Everything from her costuming and hair to her dental grill to the attempt to associate her with a better villain in Ronan the Accuser and Thanos did not work. Then we have Nick Fury. Nick Fury needs to be recast. Actually, he, like the Avengers, needs to be rested as a character. He was destroyed by the portrayal of him in Secret Invasion. The only saving grace is that most people did not see it. But those who have will never be able to view him in the same light again. That and Samuel L. Jackson is starting to look and act every year of his 74 years of age. It was painful watching him try to run in this movie. He can still act. He is, after all, Samuel L. Jackson, but he cannot pull off anything involving physical work like running or fighting. You can plainly tell when it is the stunt double doing the scene and when it is Jackson himself. Brie Larson is still Brie Larson, wholly unsuited to be Captain Marvel. She is still wooden, still lacking affect, and still trying to act like a stoic male superhero and doing it badly. She was probably cast based on her Oscar-winning performance in Room, but a drama about a mother being held hostage with her son by the son's father does not a comic book superhero make. She was fine in Kong Skull Island and a couple of other things I've seen her in, so it is not completely her lack of acting ability. Of course, her rather out-of-touch personality and insufferableness does not help fans connect with her character, though she has kept that more in check in recent years. Someone like Katie Sackhoff would have been a better Captain Marvel. Teyonah Parris was probably the worst performance of the main and secondary characters. It is either her or Zawe Ashton, but Ashton's performance was consistently meh throughout, whereas Parris had scenes where she was god-awful. She has a decent filmography as far as plenty of roles of varying prominence in a wide variety of movies goes, Until I saw her in clips from WandaVision, however, I do not recall ever seeing her in anything. I am thinking the fact that she was in the 2021 Candyman remake that the director of this film also helmed probably got her the gig. The scene in the Khan family living room after the fight with the Kree was particularly bad, where she turns the enthusiasm over Kamala's powers up to full retard, making the teenager want to show them off again and thereby making her switch places with Captain Marvel. But she was pretty consistently bad throughout the movie, and her character, the writing, and the direction did not help her at any point. Even the end credit scene was cringy. Of course, the CGI Beast and Maria Rambeau did not help her any either. Kamala's family was fine when they were in the various scenes. The mother was fairly decent and acted like a mother finding out her daughter is running around as a superhero should. I did not like how beta they made the dad look, but MCU, what can you do? The brother was also alright for the small part he had. Iman Vellani, however, was easily the best actor in the movie. That is not to say she was well written or that improvement could not be found, but it was, for the most part, not her fault. Vellani comes across as earnest and likable, with a screen presence the other older actors could use to emulate. There is a personality there that is hard to miss, even while you could wish she was in a better movie. If she was smart, she would tell her agent to lose Kevin Feige's number. Given the fact that her turns as Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel are her only credits as an actress is amazing. Overall, the movie was as much of a disappointment as most were predicting, if not as terrible as I was expecting. The story should never have gotten off the ground in the state that it was eventually filmed in. The actors, Iman Vellani accepting, should not have been cast. Brie Larson should definitely be recast. And Nia DaCosta should never have been cast as the director. And yes, she was cast. You do not hire a director with 2 minor directing credits to their name to helm a $300 million movie. At least you don't if you intend to make money with that movie. The CGI was once more sketchy at best, a running gag with Disney Marvel's MCU these days. And the editing choices were poor, if I'm being kind. The quote-unquote conclusion of the movie left more dangling strings than a Persian rug shop. I know that it is also a hallmark of the MCU these days, but it is also one of the things driving people away. You could watch a movie from phase 1, 2, or 3 and it would be largely self-contained as long as you did not bother with the end credits scene that would tease more Thanos. The exceptions were Infinity War, Ant-Man 2, and Captain Marvel. And the reason was they were lead-in movies to the grand finale of the Infinity Saga. Now, all of the stories do that, and most of what follows is simply retarded. Even the few exceptions to the general shitstorm that has become Disney Marvel. Everyone knew Captain Marvel 2 was going to be a disaster when it was announced. Changing the name to the Marvels and demoting the main character from the first one did not help. Inexperienced director hired for DEI, and so she can be a human shield when the movie crashed, a character nobody cared about, even in the comic books, source material that has been canned by Marvel Comics over and over again, and a waning comic book film genre all added up to a financial disaster in the making. Movies like The Marvels are why the genre is dying at the box office. Good comic book movies can do well. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 showed that. The genre's decline gave that movie a terrible opening, but the quality gave it legs few movies out of Marvel and Disney have seen in a while. The Marvels sucked. Everyone knew it would. Why didn't Kevin Feige or Bob Iger and pull the plug before they spent $300 million plus marketing and thereby add to the brand damage they have already done to their companies? Alas, it is yet one more mystery of Hollywood that we mere peasants can only ponder. Do yourself a favor and take advantage of my lunacy. Spare yourself the waste of time and money going to see the Marvels. Given the state of offerings at the local cinema, if you absolutely must go to the movies, I guess the Marvels is better than sitting through Taylor Swift's tour video or 3 hours of Martin Scorsese stroking his own ego with Oscar bait, but not by much, because if there is one redeeming quality that the Marvels has, it is brevity. You will not think you were in the theater for too long, because you weren't. My showing started at 8 p.m. and I was out by 10. And the trailers were pretty decent. That is all I have for this video. If you like what I do here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. It is all appreciated and it helps the channel. Still working on the third installment of my DC Comics on Film series, and it might be ready in a few days. Until then, tschüss.